Haven't heard a lot about Kyle Tucker, the Cubs right fielder who they gave a king's ransom to get out on the free agent market. Could the Cubs hang in there and maybe make a deal to get this guy after all? Would that surprise any of you guys? We'll talk about some of the other top free agents, any news or notes that we missed yesterday. And do you think that the Cubs are competing with teams like the Mets to pay for one of those top three starters that are still out on the market right now that they're linked to, but they're going to win a lot of money? All that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Also brought to you by AveD, Mick Nation. Hit that QR code right there to be a part of what we're doing. Let's go. Hey everybody, Mick Gillespie, Cubs Baseball channel, and it is great to talk to you today. Thank you for being here. Be a subscriber and help us get to 10,000 subscribers. That's our goal. We want you to be a part of that. All right, let's get into the meat of this thing, because I know you're going, who cares about your subscribers? I want to know about Kyle Tucker and his market update. Well, I haven't heard much about Tucker. You hear about Cody, Bellinger, and the Yankees kind of going back and forth. The Cubs checked in on Bellinger. Bellinger actually had a better year than Tucker, although I think you'd be foolish to think that Bellinger is a better player than Tucker. I mean, Kyle Tucker, when he's healthy, and he was healthy at the beginning of the season, is dynamic, man. He's a five-tool guy. Natural power. People sometimes compare him to Ted Williams, strong arm, gold glove defense, plays excellent in right field. There's leadership. When he was hot, the Cubs had the best offense in the league, a pure swing, plate discipline. How many times did you see him go up there and swing at bad pitches? Like he's just so consistent with his ability to see a pitch and know whether it's a strike or not. He was a clutch hitter, and then he got hurt. And then he's kind of faded off, right? And with him fading, so did the Cubs offense, which really makes me wonder is if you don't have him, how's the offense going to look this year, right? Now, the problem is that the Cubs gave up a ton of guys to get him. I mean, you know this. They gave away their first-round pick, Cam Smith, who was a pro for 1 year and played in the big leagues all season with the Astros. He was actually pretty good for a guy that should have been in the minor leagues and would have been had he been in the Cubs organization, right? Gave away an all-star third baseman, gave away a starting pitcher, right? Then the guys you traded to get the third baseman that, you made a trade at the deadline the year before for Isaac Paredes, and then, you gave away guys to get that. Then you sent Cody Bellinger to the Yankees. What a deal they got. More production than Tucker. With $5 million, hey, go ahead and take this guy. And now, the Cubs are staring at the fact that Tucker is not going to come back. And when you talk about the market right now for Kyle Tucker, it's a market that does not include the Cubs, right? Like, who do you think is who is the leader of this, like, race to get Kyle Tucker? The Toronto Blue Jays, right? And that's because he visited Toronto, and Toronto's dished out the money this year. And I would love to be a Blue Jays fan because they're going out and they're spending to try to get this guy and other guys. They want to win, right? They didn't wait around on, where they going to get a starter. They got Dylan Cease. They paid him. Okamoto paid him from Japan, right? Did they want to bring back Bo Bichette? No, they want Kyle Tucker. And if I was them, I would want Tucker too. Now, the problem is you got two things working against Tucker right now. First thing working against him is that he missed a chunk of the season last year with an injury, and that it kind of his health status to me has been a little bit questionable, right? Hairline fracture, right hand. That was in June. Left calf strain, missed time in September. He's healthy now, but, guy, that's a track record of being hurt. You're going to pay this guy between $300 and $400 million for a long-term contract, and you know that the labor is going to be an issue, right, between the owners and the players union next year, and they may not have it structured the same way. So if you go out and you pay this guy and they change things, either side, the players probably think they're going to get a better deal, although I'm sure they're ready to take whatever contract if it fits their needs that they want. And the owners, I think, are a little more hesitant to make a deal and pay a guy that kind of money. Now, what we've seen Scott Boras and we've seen other agents do is they'll take a big chunk for a contract, maybe even like a 5-year deal or a 4-year deal. Team's okay with it. They're okay with it, but they have opt-outs. So you're able to get out of the deal if, say, you feel like the market's better for you. This is the only scenario that would potentially bring him back to the Cubs. That's the only one, right? Him getting a long-term deal isn't going to happen with the Cubs. Just cannot imagine them divvying up $300 or $400 million for a guy. That'd be by far the largest contract they've ever given up with the labor thing going on and his injury history. The San Francisco Giants, I could see them potentially. Their name's been mentioned. They've got to do something to compete with the Dodgers. I talked about the Red Sox potentially, but I don't see that happening. The Yankees, I got a feeling they're going back with Bellinger. The market just isn't going to have a lot of these big high-level teams with open cash this year. So maybe the Cubs are able to kind of finagle this thing to get him back, work out one of these deals. And I've talked about this before, but like the more the time goes by and you hear about Alex Bregman, and you hear about Cody Bellinger, and you hear about Bo Bichette, you're not hearing about Kyle Tucker. So as other guys sign, right, who's going to sign Alex Bregman? The Cubs, the Red Sox reportedly offered an aggressive deal to get him. If I'm him, and I've said this over and over again, I'm just not happy about the way that the Rafael Devers thing was handled. And who knows? They traded Devers, but that was just can you imagine showing up and dealing with that? So I don't know. I mean, do you want to go back to Boston again? Maybe. I mean, it's a cool place. But the Chicago would be great too. The Cubs would be great too if they're willing to make a deal to get this to happen. But the Diamondbacks want him. And who wouldn't want him, right? He's one of those guys, when he's healthy, he's a difference maker. He's a World Series champ multiple times. And, but you're not, my point is if you sign Bregman, you might probably not going to sign Tucker, right? Then you got Cody Bellinger. I can't imagine, I said this on the show yesterday, him coming back to the Cubs. Ain't going to happen. But Yankees, hey, he went to New York. He fit in well. He had a great year, outproduced Kyle Tucker, and was a lot cheaper. Cubs sent him and $500 for Cody Petit. I mean, awful, right? But it was like, hey, we're getting rid of him. And this is the same thing that the Diamondbacks are trying to do right now to stay in that Bregman sweepstakes, right? Kendall Marte, if we could get rid of him, then we'd have the money and we could bring him in, right? Cubs, their MO with Jed Hoyer is lay back, wait, and let the market come to you. I feel like when Theo Epstein was with the Cubs, there was always a frustration on the amount of money that the Cubs spent. I definitely heard that from multiple sources. But when you look at it, I mean, it's not always about spending the most money. It's also where you put the money, right? I mean, if you sign, Ian Happ to $20 million and you sign Dansby Swanson to what he's getting, $177 million, and, obviously Happ per season, those guys aren't going to really produce a whole lot in the clutch. I mean, let's be honest. Like they're just not, guys like Cody Bellinger. Okay. Right. Kyle Tucker, top of the mountain when it comes to doing that. And when we saw it last year when he was healthy, that's how I think they feel about Alex Bregman. Right. So, I mean, it's like, where are you putting your money at? Now baseball's a weird game in this aspect. Still, Happ's a really good player. He's a Gold Glover. He's a switch hitter. There's times when he'll carry the team for a week and you can't get him out. He definitely brings stuff to the table. Then you got, you're a big chunk of money, Dansby Swanson. the numbers looked good at the end of the year, but how many of you guys felt like he was a guy that you could put in the lineup anywhere other than 8th and 9th? Because he just was never clutch, hardly ever, right? Like, kind of that, but he could play good defense, ran. And on a really talented team, you're not paying as much attention to it. But I've always felt like with him compared to everyone else, when he's hitting and playing well, the team wins. I think that's how important that position is. And to me, like, could you be creative and figure out a way to get Bo Bichette and is it possible to have 2 shortstops on the team? Would you move Dansby Swanson? Could you do that, right? That's the tough part about doing this. Now, a report came out that the New York Mets are definitely going to sign one of the big 3 remaining starting pitchers, right? Framber Valdez, who was with the Astros last year, Ranger Suarez, which would be a big hit for them, right, when he was on the Phillies and now he comes to your team, or Zach Gallen. And the reason I bring this up is I believe that. The Mets are the 2nd highest payroll in the league. Their owner is aggressive, wants to win. I think that guy, I think his name's like Steve Cohen, I think he wants to take over the New York market, right? Like, the Yankees haven't won in a long time. They got a huge fan base. The Mets have passionate fans. Hey, what if we just swoop in and just take out the Yankees as New York's number 1 team? And we're going to go and outspend the Yankees, outspend everybody but the Dodgers. So I know that that's going to happen. So then if you're the Cubs, where's that put you? Because you're going to sit back and wait. And I just got this feeling that the Cubs aren't going to be a player when it's all said and done here, right? Like they're going to be like the card game where they just throw their cards in and they out, right? Fold, as they call it, because it's too rich for them. So a trade for Edward Cabrera is something that you just keep hearing people talk about, right? That the Cubs are a team who could potentially make this deal. And, you're hearing the Yankees, Baltimore needs a starter. They've got some prospects to give up. The Mets would possibly get him. But this feels more like a move that the Cubs would make, right? Like, we'll trade some guys away, maybe prospect Jackson Wiggins, who I think if he stays healthy, depending on his health, would be ready to help, at least in the bullpen this year. Who knows? What about some other guys? What would they value? Maybe a Jordan Wicks, definitely coming down on this side of things just because he's been in the big leagues. He's had some success, but it isn't sustained, or maybe somebody in the lower minor leagues or whatever. I don't know. But this one feels like the guys, our friend Pat Mooney and the guys from The Athletic, kind of talking about it, like, hey, we're doing this and that and this. I could see this happening. I could see this being a way for the Cubs to make that Alex Bregman thing happen, or a Kyle Tucker reunion if the market were right and he would be willing to kind of do a short-term deal because of the fact that, they wouldn't have to spend, the free agent money to get someone. They could go ahead and trade someone who's actually got a pretty decent contract. All right, look, that does it for the show. I want to thank all of you guys again for hanging. Hit our QR code right there. Be part of AveD. You can win you one of these hats right here. Wouldn't you look great walking around with that Cubs baseball hat, kind of that old school logo? Yeah, I know you want one. So go ahead and do that. But we give away prizes and stuff all the time. Like, like basically, hey, we're going to do this and throw this out there. Here's a football game to pick. We'll get the NFL playoff, which is coming up. Should be interesting. And we'll talk about that on a daily basis right here on the Cubs baseball channel. So thank you guys. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Again, please help us get to 10,000 subscribers. That's all we want to do. And then after that, we'll want to get to 20. Have a great day. Go.